General election, you campaigned on a message of change, of doing politics differently and making yours a government of service. Do you acknowledge that this has undermined your message and reputation, and are you sorry about that?
Well, I think it's important just to put it in its context.
I should definitely see this interview with Keir Starmer. The journalist simply tore him apart, exposing all his lies and hypocrisy. She couldn't stand his evasion of direct answers to questions about the gifts she received. And the most interesting thing is, he didn't even apologize. We're starting to watch.
In the general election, you campaigned on a message of change, of doing politics differently and making yours a government of service. And yet you find yourself caught in a row over the huge amount of freebies you've accepted while leader of the opposition, £107,000, far more than any other MP. Do you acknowledge that this has undermined your message and reputation, and are you sorry about that?
Well, I think it's important just to put it in its context. Any gift or donation to a politician has to be declared.
As you can see, Starmer refused to apologize for accepting free gifts because, in his opinion, he had done nothing wrong. He said he accepted donations for housing because his son needed somewhere to prepare for his final exams. He wasn't going to apologize for not doing anything wrong, and the freebie didn't cost the taxpayer a penny. It said ministers would no longer accept donations for clothes, but left open the possibility of getting more tickets to events, such as a Taylor Swift concert. I am shocked by this man.
Everything I've had has been declared, and sitting behind the numbers are some human explanations. So quite a lot of that money was for tickets for football matches. I pay for my own tickets at Arsenal. I've got season tickets. Unfortunately, I can't sit in the stand anymore for security reasons. And the club have said, well, in which case, be our guest in the director's box, if and when there's space. Now, no money changes hands. You can't buy a ticket. But then the register says, well, what's the amount that would be the equivalent, even though you didn't buy the ticket? And that has to be declared.
Yes.
Now, that means if I didn't do that, I couldn't go to Arsenal. I go with my boy.
Starmer escaped the investigation. Apparently, Lord Ali was able to bribe everyone. He had to register all the gifts, contributions and donations he received. It's very unfair. I was hoping that he would resign.
Second example I'll just give you is some of that money was for the loan of a flat during the election period. No money changed hands.
Yes, and that was related to your son.
Yeah, there was no cash adjustment. We had a situation where the election was called, not when we expected it, I think most people. My son happened to be in the middle of his GCSEs. That means there are a lot of journalists outside the front door and in the street. I'm not complaining about that, but if you're 13, as my girl is, if you're 16, as my boy is, that's quite hard to navigate when you're concentrating on GCSEs. Now, hear me out, because you put it to me.
Yeah.
To be honest, I am shocked that he spent £24 million so that his son could prepare for the exam. I think this is nonsense and an excuse. It is unlikely that the son of the Prime Minister would not have passed at least some kind of exam, and it does not matter whether he was preparing or not.
So I said, we're going to get you out of here and get you somewhere where you can just study and get to school and back without having to go through all of that. And that's when someone said, well, in which case I can make this flat available to you. It's safe, secure. He can get on with the job. No money exchanged hands. We didn't. No money exchanged hands. But for the registrar, no, but you put it to me. Let me just finish. But for the registrar's purposes, he says, well, I know you didn't pay and nobody gave you money, but let's work out what it would have been worth if it had been a commercial transaction, which it wasn't.
There is nothing wrong with the Prime Minister advising welfare recipients to look for work. There is nothing wrong with the Prime Minister taking a luxury apartment so that his child can study in peace. But the fact that these two things became news on the same day is bad. This is certainly one of the most disastrous mistakes in recent times. In June and July, Lord rented out his luxury apartment. The Prime Minister said that we should live more modestly because of the great crisis in the country, and the next day provides his son with unimaginable luxury. Who is he trying to fool? A few chatty neighbors behind the wall is not the most burdensome distraction for a teenager who is studying. I resent the idea that this luxury was an urgent necessity for his son. I could calmly prepare for exams with all the conditions so his son can tolerate the mumbling of a reporter. In addition, the idea that final exams are very necessary, especially for the son of the Prime Minister, is complete nonsense. Exam results rarely determine the fate of any child, least of all the one whose father is the most influential person in the country. Look, a good father will do everything in his power to help his children move forward. Obviously, that's exactly what Starmer was doing here. And yet the smell of hypocrisy is strong. His government plans to impose VAT on tuition fees in private schools, which will make education inaccessible primarily to working-class families who have settled well on their own and want their children to climb the social ladder. He also said that he needed all those free football tickets because he is a public figure. It's a very hard life. Angela Rayner and Rachel Reeves also felt sorry for themselves in justification of the free dresses they received. I suggest that Starmer return to his luxurious residence and do his own research on what he is doing wrong. Perhaps he will learn something. After all, he must have wisdom.
Do you see how it looks to some people that there's one rule for you in terms of being able to claim this stuff that other people don't have access to?
Well, I think that's why the rules are there to declare it. But look, every day...
Do you get it, though?
Every day...
Do you get how it looks?
If you're putting to me, Beth, that I should have stayed in my Kentish Town home and disrupted my son's GCSEs, that was the right thing to do, then I think you should put that to me.
OK. Well, you're saying that you shouldn't have stayed in the home because you wanted to protect your boy.
I wanted him to be able to do his GCSEs, and any parent would have made the same decision. I don't wake up every morning thinking about that. I wake up every morning thinking I've got a mandate to change the country. I've got a mandate to improve living standards.
Everyone knows that Keir Starmer likes freebies, but why are we surprised? The signs were 15 years ago when he made a tax-free pension deal that almost no one else gets. While Labour's decision to cut winter fuel payments left 2 million pensioners with a difficult choice between eating and heating their homes, Starmer was forced to make difficult decisions on his own, namely to choose which gifts to accept and which to refuse. In the end, it wasn't that difficult. He accepted everything. He also bought free seats at the National Theatre, tickets to the Christmas ball and a new pair of designer glasses. While he is imposing austerity in the country, he is wasting money. Starmer always considered himself an exception, even before he became Labour leader. As director of the DIP, he billed taxpayers for expenses of averaging about £50,000 per year. He also spent more than £160 for a car with a driver in London, despite the fact that he lives 4 miles from the Keep's office. He also billed for a number of first or business class flights, including £20,000 for flights. These demands were in excess of his salary, which amounted to £1 million over 5 years, plus £336,000 of pension payments. I was shocked and impressed by how wasteful he was. It is believed that his total pension exceeds £1 million. Now that the Prime Minister's salary is £167,000, he will continue to earn well.
There might be human reasons for it, but do you understand the optics of it? When you are the Prime Minister that said you were going to do politics differently, it looks like you're claiming loads of freebies.
Well,
do you get it? Even if you don't agree with it?
I've given you my explanation, and I can't improve on that. If people think that my decision to try and protect my son's GCSEs was the wrong one, they're free to do so.
There's lots of other things in that it's not.
Keir Starmer really likes to talk about family and present himself as a good person. However, in order for someone to believe this, he comes up with facts about himself. He said that his dad worked in a factory, and his mom worked as a nurse, and said that the family lived in poverty. They lived for months without electricity and telephone lines due to their inability to pay bills. But it actually turned out that his dad owned the factory where he worked, and they could actually afford to pay the bills and eat well, and his father later became the director. Starmer has always made good money, and as it has now become known, for a long time he received huge amounts of money from extremely wealthy sponsors who were hostile to the very people to whom Starmer made his election promises. He is a hypocrite who bears no resemblance to what a real Labour leader should be, and he certainly has no right to claim to understand the plight of millions of people.
Britain's global standing. We're determined to improve it, determined to repair Britain's brand as an open, outward-looking, confident, trading nation. But we've also got to look at regulation across the piece. And where it is needlessly holding back the investment, we need to take up.
The man also suggested improving the economy by making more prisons. I'm not kidding, it was like that. Every statement he makes terrifies me, because he likes to promise real horrors to citizens. In his first major speech since taking office, he painted an extremely bleak picture for us. The Conservative Party that ruled before him for 14 years left his country in a state of rubble and ruins. And huge amounts of money have evaporated. Is Starmer trying to say that there is corruption in Britain? I hope he's clearly alluding to himself. He also promised to save the economy, that is, the oligarchs. And in order to save them better, And more reliably, ordinary people who already cannot make ends meet will be taxed completely beyond their means. And when people say that they clearly do not need such a government, Starmer will popularly explain that no one is asking people. Economic reforms by the prison method are very democratic. I almost fell off my chair when I heard that. What do you think about this video? Write your opinion in the comments. See you.